Thank you. Today I'm going to be talking about native bee pollinators. Pollinator, which Beth told you a while ago, it can be anything that will spread the pollen from the male part of a flower to the female part of the flower.
I'm not sure, but this is wrong.
Okay. Let's see if that works. Is it still doing it?
No.
Okay. All right. So pollinator is anything that will spread the pollen from the male part of the flower to the female part of the flower. And I didn't even know I did that. And this, can not only be hummingbirds, it could be animals, bats, insects. Now, let me tell you that Beth and I probably are giving you just a little bit different information, but it's just because we got our stuff from different sources. Am I ringing?
Are you what?
Am I ringing?
Yeah. I think it's that necklace that keeps tapping you. Take your necklace off. There you go. Let's try that. Give that to John.
Okay, now am I ringing?
Okay.
Okay. No, don't take my jobs, Avery. Uh-oh, now I'm still ringing. Okay. Well, every time I touch, I move to the numbers. About 90% of our flowers have to have outside pollinators of some sort, which that means there's 10% of flowers that pollinate maybe by wind, or they may self-pollinate. But other than that, we have to have pollinators. There's many, many pollinators, bats, birds, mammals, insects, but most of them are insects. Now, you're going to think that I'm going to talk to you about honeybees. Am I still ringing? What do I do? Danielle!
Hey, Frank, step on this side of the table.
Okay,
Step on this side of the table.
play down there.
Sat wrong. Okay.
Okay, let's see if I ring over here. Ring, ring. 1, 2, 3.
I'll just stay here for a little bit. You keep trying to talk.
Okay, all right. Okay, I am not going to be talking to you about honeybees today, although honeybees are excellent pollinators. But here's the deal about honeybees. First of all, they're not native. Honeybees were brought to the United States in the 1600s, and yes, they are wonderful pollinators, but they are not the only pollinator. Honeybees do their very best job in something that looks like this. You see where they have rows of the same species of plant in these fields, or even in these wildflower fields. They do a great job there. On a specific, it's not really specific, but it is all one kind or one group of type flowers. My house looks well, I wish it looked a little bit more like the one on the left. I have diverse plants in my yard, and even in your gardens, if you have a wonderful garden, your garden might look like this, and there's a lot of diverse plants. These are not the best places for honeybees. Honeybees like the same type of thing. Okay, I'm just showing you some insect pollinators here. There's the bumblebees, honeybees, butterflies, moths. I'm not going to read all those down to you. Even beetles. That was a surprise to me. Did you know that beetles can be a pollinator? Well, okay. What makes an insect want to pollinate? Here's the deal. Insects are selfish. They are doing what they have to do to stay alive. And an insect pollinator is actually going after the pollen and the nectar. Well, nature has made this so that as the insect goes for the pollen, it also moves the pollen from the male to the female part of the flower. It's their coexistence. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about native bees and solitary bees, and there are lots and lots and lots of them. They said 4,000 species. There you go. Oh, here. This is probably a bee that you have actually seen because it is a bumblebee, and there are lots of different looks of them on the bottom. They're a little bit more of a social bee, but they also can be sometimes a solitary bee. And I'll tell you why. With the bee, we're just going to start on the bottom here. In the fall, the late summer and fall, the queen bee, and there is a queen in the bumblebees, the queen bee is going to lay some eggs, and she's going to have males, or what's going to come from those eggs, and also other queen bees. And so she will mate with the males. Then what she's going to do next, she's going to go off by herself. You know how you talk about a beehive and the queen bees in all the middle of the hive? That's not the way with bumblebees. This queen bee and all of her new queens will go by themselves. They like find a hole in the ground or dig a hole in the ground and bury themselves through the winter. So at that time, they're actually a solitary bee. When she comes out in the spring, she will forage for food and gather up enough, and she'll find herself a nest, and she will lay her first batch of eggs in that nest, and she's gathered enough pollen and nectar for those. And she actually will stay with them and raise those first little bunch of bees. She's making herself some workers now. Once she's done that, then all her job is just to stay there in the colony and lay eggs. And
Fran, excuse me, Fran, now did you say, does she have a nest or?
she will have a nest or a colony. She lays them in, well, maybe dead stumps, maybe in the ground. They can have bumblebee nests actually in the ground. See how they're showing that one?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And
So
then
it's
the
not
worker.
an actual nest like what you would.
Not like a hornet's nest or a wasp nest or something like that. It will be something that's contained in something like, they don't mind using other stuff. You know, they'll build a nest maybe in a birdhouse. Or they say that stumps, and I don't have any stumps in my yard.
So do they dig a hole or do they mine a hole?
They may dig the hole. They may dig the hole, but they'd rather find the hole. And so in the summer, see, she's got down here to the bottom. Now she's got all these workers that are doing all the work for her. And those those bumblebees don't last through the winter. She is the only one that lasts. She goes off and she breeds and she goes off and hides herself again.
How many years will she last?
I think just one.
Oh,
I'm not sure, but I think just one. Okay, this is so funny to me. I've dug holes all over my yard. Now, I don't go out in the pasture and dig holes and stuff. Has anybody ever dug up a bumblebee nest? I really haven't. I don't know. I guess I'm just lucky. I don't really think I would want to dig up a bumblebee nest. But this is what they do. They get in the ground, old stumps. You see it said empty birdhouses or voids. And this is what a bumblebee nest looks like inside. Okay, I'm going to tell you a couple of things about bees. Some of them are generalist feeders and some of them are specialized feeders. Generalist feeder, they'll just feed on whatever flowers are around. A specialized feeder will specialize and pollinate only certain types of crops. So we'll just get that out of the way at the first. bumblebees do about 8 times the work of honeybees. I know we all think, oh, honeybees, we gotta have honeybees. Well, this is a native bee, and they're doing about 8 times as much work as the little honeybees. They seem to help produce bigger fruit, larger crops, and this is a funny thing, and I want to see if I can, you see her, okay, here's her head, I think right here, we're right in there. And here's her body. Okay, she is doing buzz pollination. That bumblebee is actually sitting on that flower and buzzing. And when she does, the pollen will fall off and it'll fall all over her body. As far as I know, that's the only one that I know about that does the buzz pollination. She also, because she has such a big, strong body, she can fly in the rain, she can last when it's colder, and she can carry more pollen. Most bumblebees are doing okay as far as habitat, except we know that this one is on the endangered list, and that's up there in like Michigan, Wisconsin. That doesn't mean that we ought to give up, but it's mostly destruction of habitat by farming on the plains up there. Okay, we're talking about solitary bees now. Now, solitary bees don't have queens. The females are all can lay eggs. They're fertile. There's not just one queen. And solitary bees are so many more. There's so many more in our environment. What they will do, they'll find a place. They like a tube. They like ground. They're like little beetle holes. See this kind of plant right here? This is a bee balm or horse mint. Okay. This one is actually a wild one that Gwen found for me. They like to, in the fall, they like to lay their eggs down in those tubes like that. Now, the picture we're looking at right now is one that somebody has actually made this. And what happens, oh, there I go. I went a long way, didn't I? Oops. Okay. What happens is she will lay her females up in this part, and then which I'm assuming is the end. And then she'll lay the males in this part. This one happens to be a mason bee. And see this one up here? I'm going to show you some things about this. This is a leafcutter bee. I'm not sure what these are. They look like the larvae. But solitary bees will lay their eggs in the summer. They go all the way through the winter. That's why they like those tubers or burrows or something like that. And then they emerge the next spring. This is a carpenter bee. Does it look a lot to you, a little bit like that honeybee? Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm going to tell you something I thought was kind of funny. My mother never let me say this word, but carpenter bees have a shiny hiney. And bumblebees have a fuzzy butt. So that's the way that you can tell. You can see she has a shiny honey. That one has a shiny honey. There's a fuzzy butt over there. See the fuzzy butt? Carpenter bees they actually chew holes for their nests in wood. And something that is unusual about the carpenter bees is that they will actually hang around after they lay their eggs, wait for their brood to hatch, and even the brood may even come back to the same place in the next spring. Unfortunately, carpenter bees also can do some damage. If you see something like this, See the spots there? That's where carpenter bees are damaged. You probably need to do something about that because they're going to come back to that same spot, possibly to overwinter. And this is interesting though. Carpenter bees are generalist feeders. Remember I told you they would feed on lots of different pollen. They can carry lots of pollen. But here's the deal. They have short tongues. So their little tongues are short. So what they do is they snip a little hole in the bottom of that flower and sip out the nectar if it's a plant that they can't. Isn't that amazing? Nature is amazing. Okay, this is a digger bee. They're hairy. They are generalist to specialist feeders, and they're hairy body. And I think I have seen things like this before. Have you ever seen one like this in the ground? Okay, that is a digger bee. They're ground nesters. They sometimes will aggregate kind of in an area like that. But what's happening is those little holes, that's just when they go right in, and that's like the entry hall. And then they'll all dig off and have their own tube. I guess kind of like an apartment, I don't know. You know, you come in and then you go to that. This is one that I wanted you to see. It's a mason bee, and it has, it's shiny. It has maybe green, blue, black, shiny, and occasionally you'll see one that will be a little bit hairy like this. When you see that, it looks like a honeybee, doesn't it? But it's not. It's a mason bee. It's a little bit smaller. They will go to lots of different plants or go to just specialized plants. And, oh, I think this is so cute. They actually have a part on their body where they collect pollen. It's called a scopa. Look at this little mason bee. All right. He's gone over there. He's got pollen all over his legs. He's thrown it up on his head, and he's also got it in the scopa here on his abdomen. These are great pollinators. They said that it takes 90,000 honeybees to do the work of 300 mason bees. Wow. Can you believe that? That's a busy little bee. Let's see. Okay, they are solitary. They like to build their nests from mud. They don't like to dig. They would rather squat in somebody else's spot, even a little burrow in the ground. When they do, the eggs are in the back are female, and the ones in the front are male. I think they do that because when they come out, the males are waiting. They come out first, and the males are hanging around there waiting for the females to come out, which we know why. That's what they're supposed to do. This to me is such a funny thing though. Okay, when that female bee finds a spot that she's going to lay her eggs, she will go out and she will gather pollen and nectar. She kneads it together. Can you see this little bee doing this kneading proposition? She kneads it all together. So she's got a ball. Then she takes that ball and puts it in this spot. Then she lays an egg. Then she goes out and gets some mud and builds a wall. What worker? What a worker. Here we go again. She goes out for this next one. She gets the pollen nectar. She kneads it all together until she's got this little ball. Carries it in there, and then lays her egg and goes out and builds her another wall. So when she gets to have about 5 to 8 cells there in that area, which could be just like in that plant, then she will stop. And those will develop and emerge in the next spring. And this is a leafcutter bee, and I want to show you. Some of you have seen your plants like that. Doris and I talked, I was going to get a leaf because I saw a leaf cutter bee. See what it's doing here? That little bee will sit on that leaf. They don't like real fibrous leaves, like something like a softer leaf, like a rose bush or something like that, that's not real fibrous. And they will cut all around themselves until they fall out with, it's kind of like a cartoon. They fall out with that little piece of leaf. And they go over here and they line their little spot with it where they're going to lay their eggs. Here's another one right here. And they line it with leaf cuttings. This is just metallic green bees. We see them around sometimes. This one, oh, I want to tell you about this. Have you ever been like standing around out in your yard and all of a sudden you see a bee land on you? And you're going, most of us are going, ah, I need to get it off. That's a sweat bee. And sweat bees actually like to sip human sweat. They're not going to hurt you. Most of the solitary bees do not sting. And because they don't have a hive, they're not worried about protecting anything. And she will bury her hole, see down there in the ground. And some of them are social, some of them will live close to the other. But I have seen this happen to me before, and we always jump 10 feet high, thinking it's going to sting us. This is a plaster bee. It's fuzzy, medium-sized, but what makes it unusual is the fact that it sips the pollen, or it eats the pollen and the nectar, and then it has a gland, and it makes a cellophane-type substance. Remember now we have plastic, but we used to have cellophane that went around things, and she will lay that in on the, okay. This one, she'll line her burrow with it, but also she has to lay her egg up on the wall of her burrow because the stuff that she has is so soupy that she has to lay the egg up there because it would drown. The larva would drown because of this soupy mass when it emerged. So she lays hers up on the wall. This is very similar. This is not really. It's similar in the fact that it doesn't even look like a bee to me, but it is. They call them wasp-like bees, and they also use the cellophane in their pre-made holes sitting down here. Okay. Oh, I wanted to tell you just a couple of things to tell you. This is a book, Bees in Your Backyard, and it was a great book. And I got this information from Molly Keck, who is an entomologist with the Texas Ag Wildlife Extension Service in Bexar County. She's a great teacher. And these beautiful pictures are her pictures, and a lot of them she took from this book. So if you're interested in it, get your bees in your backyard. Now, we want to encourage the solitary bees. We need pollinators. So here's something that I had never really thought about. In the spring, I'm really good about planting flowers. I love to plant flowers in the spring. I just love those flowers coming out in the spring. And when it gets hot, I don't have any flowers. So plant flowers that will be there in the summer as well, because we get dry and hot, and basically we just kind of starve our little bees because that is what they have to do. They have to go to a flower to get pollen in order to live. So be sure that you, if you can, try to have flowers. Maybe even if they're in pots. Beth talked about a lot of different flowers that you could have, and some that will even survive in the summer. Avoid pesticides. Pesticides kill them. That's just the way it is. If you have to use a pesticide, say you've got fire ants, use one that's specific for for that insect that you're trying to eradicate. And don't put it on in the daytime, put it on preferably in the evening so that in the morning it will have dried some. And don't spray it on your flowers. You know, just, there's just, you know, we get busy and we just spray everything.
Fran, one of the things that they've talked about too is taking a cardboard box or something similar, put it over the place that's affected and spray in there. That way it keeps the spray from getting.
That is a great idea, Karen. That's a great idea. So that you're trying not to get those pesticides spread around to all parts of your yard. Bees love muddy water. Muddy water is great for them. If you can have a mud source and a water source, that's something that they really like to have. If you can have nesting habitats, they love stumps. I don't have any stumps in my yard. What is your yard? Your yard. But if you can leave an area of your yard, if you have enough property, that has some more wild type stuff. And here's another thing. I'm really bad about, as soon as my plants all get frozen off in the fall, you know, in the beginning of winter, I'll cut them off. Man, I clean them up. Well, you're actually cutting up your bee habitat then, because we didn't want it to look nasty. Okay. This is where they nested in the ground. I think I've actually seen this before. Have any of you ever seen something like, see how they have the ground? If the ground is left undisturbed there, like a garden path or a driveway, or sometimes they'll even get under like pavers, and that is a great place for the ground nesters. They said, you ever have mounds of soil in your yard? I don't know about you, but I plant a plant. I put it in the ground, I put a little bit of soil back, and then I have this soil that's left. And I'm always real busy cleaning it up and carrying it off someplace. But if you have mounds of soil, that within a year you'll probably have some ground nesting bees in there. And yucca is another great thing. Beth talked about a lot of great places. Yucca is another one. You can see why, because they get in those twigs of that. And most people don't go out and clean out their yucca, so that's another good place. I don't have any stumps, like I said, but I'm going to try. Oh, I just wanted to show you a few bee things. This is one that Doris loaned to me that she had from years before. And it's good, but once it's used, you need to take out the things, because what happens is the bees, if they try to nest in there again, they will, there are fungus and viruses that they can get. So try to clean out the little tubes every year. She's not using this year.
Every year, you said?
Yes, every year. But don't wait, wait until they emerge though.
Okay.
Because remember, they're going to come out in the spring.
I've lined mine with straw, so all I have to do is pull the straw out.
Right, great. That is a great idea. This one is one that belongs to my friend Jo, and she just doesn't have it up yet, but there are a lot of cute little things. If it's possible, and you want to pay more money, this is one I got from Crown Bees. It hangs like this. It has a roof over it to kind of protect the things. These, it came with reeds. I would like to find some reeds, but I'm scared to climb out there in all the brush. You know, it's so snaky this year. But I think next year I'm going to buy some reeds. I'm going to buy reeds. I just put some extra stuff in there to kind of separate it. And a little bit, and then this particular thing you don't have to have, but it's really to kind of protect your, it's to protect it from the birds getting in there and eating your cocoons. I have cocoons at home, by the way. This is Crown Bee. Turning the wrong way.
Fran,
Uh-huh.
just so you know, I think your PowerPoint is automated to auto advance,
Oh, okay.
so you're gonna have to go back and catch up.
Okay, there's probably not much in there. Yes.
When you were talking about the stumps, which a lot of stuff has stumps, would firewood also be something they
It could be,
could?
yeah. Maybe something you may want to watch for. Let me go back just a little bit here. I think probably most of this last information. Just showing you some solitary bee houses. These, you can get them off Amazon.
Like that house right there, would you put that down by the ground?
About like this.
Where would it be placed?
About like this, or higher. You don't want it to put it down where you'll like get fire ants in it and stuff like that. Don't put it on higher.
But hanging on a wall, hanging on a
Yes,
tree?
and they like them to be sturdy. They don't especially like to swing. So I've seen, that was my idea. I was going to hang it somewhere. Well, the problem is it's swinging, and the bees prefer them to be stable.
Did you see a preferred face, like which way
Oh,
are they
yes.
facing?
Oh, yes. Thank you so much. Face that bee house to the south or southeast if you can. Because in the winter, see, if it stays out there all winter long, and you don't have to leave it out all winter, but if it stays out all winter long, you're protecting it from the north winds. They really, I don't know if you do all this, they really like to have some sun on them in the morning to kind of, and bees, we have terrible sun here. If you can have a little morning sun and then a little evening, not quite in the worst heat of the day. This person has made one out of a coffee can. There's nothing wrong with that. If you take that and then when the summer is over, take it and put it in your unheated garage, and because just to kind of protect it, it's just thin, and then get it back out in the spring and hang it back out. There's nothing wrong with it.
Fran, you kind of want a porch on that.
Yes, if you
And,
could.
yeah, if you can, a PVC
Because
is a good user too.
Really?
You can use PVC.
Okay.
And that way it allows you pick the length depending on the size of your tubes. And you've
Okay.
got a little porch in there. It doesn't have to be big, but enough to protect it from the rain.
That's a good idea. Did y'all hear her? You can use PVC and put your little tubes in there and leave enough here so that you have a little roof. See, this one, see how deep it is? That's hoping that I can get 5 to 8 cells in there. You'll get more females that way. This one is not quite that deep. It'll work, it's good, but you pay a little more money. I said honestly, did you see that birdhouse right there? Wouldn't that, if it didn't have the front on it, wouldn't it make a great bee house? If you took, I was hoping I would win that. And I was going to take the front off and make me a little bee house out of it. Okay. I think that any plants you can plant if you can. They see all wave leaves. Purple, blue, yellow, white are great. But you know what? If you will just plant some flowers for them, or even, they suggested, let the weeds in your yard go to flower. No. Oh no, because I like a mess in your yard, but I want to have bees, so I'm starting. Anything else? Thank you very much. Appreciate it.